Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel. My X gene is a creation system. I realized Superman power at first. Chapter 1. Xavier College. Am I not dead? Lee Ho-shin suddenly had a headache, as if his whole body was about to fall apart. What is this place? He glanced around subconsciously. The unfamiliar yet familiar environment looked like a high-end apartment house or villa. It's obviously the first time I've seen this place, so why does it feel familiar? Swish. At this moment, a torrent of memories flooded into his mind, and Lee Ho-shin immediately understood. He crossed. It's just that when people travel through time, it's a dimensionality reduction blow. Either go to a parallel world, become a copywriter, and a random song will shock the music scene, or a movie will shake up the entire entertainment industry. Either go to the ancient world, and rely on the knowledge of modern people, either to be rich and wealthy, or to fight for hegemony and conquer thousands of miles. But he was lucky, and he was hit directly to upgrade his dimension. Because the world that Lee Ho-shin traveled through. It is a Marvel comprehensive world where gods and demons coexist, aliens invade randomly, and mutants, superheroes, and people with superpowers walk everywhere. Chaos, battles, and killings seem to happen in any corner of the world every second. Especially in this world, the situation of mutants is very passive. It can even be said to be dangerous. You might die anytime. Bad world. In fact, Lee Ho-shin is not like most people, looking forward to time travel. Although he is not the second generation, he is still a master who graduated from 985. After working hard for so long, he finally entered the Big Penguin factory and became a supervisor. The annual salary has finally risen to more than 1 million, and life can be said to be getting better and better. I'm afraid it won't take a few years before he can get rich and free, and return to his hometown in the 7th line. With the house price of less than 200 million yuan for the decoration of the villa in my hometown, when the time comes, I can buy a luxury car to live in the villa, marry a young daughter-in-law, and live a life like a fairy. But when he opened his eyes, he came to this terrible world. The original body is also unlucky enough. The awakened X gene is too powerful, and the spirit can't bear it, so it just collapsed. Lee Ho-shin muttered to himself. This is also the reason why he crossed over. According to the logic of consciousness, create some power of equivalent exchange. Feeling the memory of the original body and the power of the awakened X gene in his body, he suddenly had some guesses. After all, he used to be considered a top student, and his thinking ability is still good. It took just a moment to guess. Isn't this the system? The more Lee Ho-shin thought about it, the weirder his expression became. He has also read some novels. Basically every time traveler novel, the protagonist will have a system. For example, the God-level lottery system consumes points and conducts a lottery. Another example is the God-level task system, complete the task and get rewards. There is even a one knife 999 instant kill system. As long as you kill the enemy with one knife, you can instantly be promoted to level 999 and so on. They are all equivalent exchanges according to certain rules. It's just that the things the host pays are generally much less, which is not too cheap. After all, he is the protagonist, and he is not allowed to make a discount. Thinking about it this way, Lee Ho-shin immediately understood his X gene ability better. If it is used well, it will definitely be an extremely powerful existence. Wait, isn't that, I can create awesome systems at will. Suddenly Lee Ho-shin was stunned. Isn't the ability of his X gene equivalent to creating systems at will according to the logic of consciousness? Suck. Lee Ho-shin couldn't help it, and contributed to global warming. This X gene cowhide is too big. After a while, he couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Even Lee Ho-shin wasn't very interested in time travel at the beginning, but he couldn't help becoming excited at this moment. The future is promising. Lee, are you awake? At this moment, a girl with long flaxen hair walked beside her, holding a water glass and a warm wet towel in her hand. Katie. In Lee Ho-shin's memory, the girl's name suddenly appeared. This lovely girl with long flaxen hair is the Phantom Cat, Katie Pride. The original body seems to have a good relationship with her. Through the memory screen, Lee Ho-shin immediately got some understanding of Katie. He looked at the other party, a 17-year-old young girl, who was already young and beautiful, but the other party was a Caucasian girl with fairer and tenderer skin. Coupled with her exquisite facial features and cute face, she is also a little beauty with many suitors at Xavier College. Are you feeling better? Katie asked with some concern. It has been half a year since Lee Ho-shin came to Xavier, but the X gene has always been very unstable, but suddenly a powerful force broke out yesterday. It even alarmed the professor, although he finally suppressed it. But Lee Ho-shin also fell into a coma for a long time. This made Katie, who had a good relationship with him, feel a little worried. She has a very strong interest and affection for this Chinese mutant with black hair and black eyes, and the relationship between the two is very good. Don't worry, I'm much better. Lee Ho-shin nodded. The original body is dead, and he has also traveled over. Even if you don't want to travel too much, there is no need to waste energy on what has happened. Regret, hesitation, fear and other emotions will only waste precious time. This is what Lee Ho-shin has known since he was a child. I want to live well. Although in this era, the risk factor is extremely high, and it is even possible to encounter danger in the next moment, but Lee Ho-shin has not enjoyed life yet. Absolutely will not give in and admit defeat like this. So, he wants to live, and he wants to live well. And if you want to survive, then first. Just to become stronger, using the X gene to create my first system. Lee Ho-shin is a person with a plan, and suddenly there are some ideas in his mind. This first system is very critical and important. And it can be regarded as an exploration of the X gene, which needs to be studied carefully. You're awake, I'll call the professor. Katie touched Lee Ho-shin's forehead and found that it was no longer hot, so she ran out excitedly to announce the good news to Professor X. What a lovely girl. Lee Ho-shin shook his head. Although it was only the first time they met, Lee Ho-shin was also full of love for this girl. After all, who can say no to a beautiful and kind-hearted little girl? What should my first system look like? Take a deep breath and calm your mind. Only then did Lee Ho-shin start to seriously study the X gene in his body. The X gene, according to the setting of Marvel Comics, is an experiment conducted on the human beings on Earth when the cosmic gods came to the Earth 100 million years ago. They endowed some humans with genes capable of random mutations. As long as you can activate the X gene in your body, you can become a mutant. As for the powerful Omega class or the weak Epsilon class, it all depends on one's luck. This is random, just like the genes responsible for the appearance of human beings, which have many kinds of combinations and mutations. It's as if both parents are beautiful and handsome, but their children may also be not satisfactory. So it's not certain and certain. So sometimes, the parents are powerful mutants, and the children can be trash. For example, Bailey, his mutant ability, one-time human fireworks has been officially certified as the shortest and worst mutant ability. Another example is Franklin Richards, the son of Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman. Although neither of his parents are mutants, he was born an Omega. Even in his childhood, he was already stronger than ordinary members of the Universe God group. This is uncertainty. What about me? The X gene of Lee Ho-shin's original body is very powerful. Even if it is not the strongest Omega level, it is at least Alpha level. It's just that which level he belongs to. With his current knowledge and insight, he still can't tell the difference. And his mutant ability is actually very simple. Simply put, it is to create some power of equivalent exchange, according to the logic of consciousness. But Lee Ho-shin understands that this seems to have involved some simple rules. If used well, it is definitely a powerful ability. The more I look at it, the more I feel that this is the prototype of the system. Lee Ho-shin secretly said. Then what kind of system should we create? The systems owned by the protagonist in the novels and comics that I have read before flashed quickly in my mind. One Knife 999 system. Invincible upgrade system. Daily check-in system. All heavens fishing system. Quote. A large number of system names flashed through Lee Ho-shin's mind. But many things cannot be born out of thin air. For example, the fishing system of the heavens, according to the introductions in those novels, can fish the heavens and myriad worlds, with everything from pills, magical weapons, and skills. But in fact, Lee Ho-shin's X gene ability is still unable to break through the crystal wall of the universe and go fishing in the heavens and myriad worlds. The logic of consciousness can imagine infinitely, but the power of equivalent exchange is limited. And it can't break through the limit of the universe. At least in this Marvel universe, Lee Ho-shin is still unable to break through. A price of 999 is definitely a failure. The increase in energy cannot be so much in an instant, and level 999 needs a reference to be 999, but who is 1? This issue is still very complicated. Creating a system is definitely not as simple as, ding, and then, your system has been credited, nor is it inexplicably, system loaded successfully. Lee, you're awake. At this moment, a gentle voice sounded. Lee Ho-shin looked up, and saw a man in a wheelchair, pushed by Katie, coming to him. It's him. This person is so recognizable. Deep eyes, confident expression, and the extreme wisdom, smiling face with a strong affinity. Professor X. Lee Ho-shin looked at this man with some vigilance in his heart. Because the opponent's spiritual power is too strong as Magneto, and he also needs a small helmet to be uncontrollable and telepathic. He was worried that his secret would be discovered by the other party. Ding. Spirit shielding system, created successfully. It detects that there is a mental force sensor around, and the system automatically initiates a mental shield. At this moment, a crisp sound suddenly echoed in Lee Ho-shin's mind. The system is successfully created like this. How did you do it? And many more. Just now, I just thought, without being telepathed by Professor X, reading my inner secrets, the system was created. Could it be? Lee Ho-shin's heart skipped a beat, and he seemed to understand. According to the logic of consciousness, create an equivalent power of exchange, so that's how it is. He finally understood. Okay. At this moment, Professor X frowned slightly, and looked at Lee Ho-shin in surprise, but he spoke with gentle eyes. Lee, you don't need to be so vigilant. Even if I can easily manipulate, delete, browse, or even create other people's memories, under normal circumstances, I won't use them on people. After all, we are not enemies, and each of us should have our own privacy. Hearing Professor X's words, Lee Ho-shin smiled awkwardly, looking a little embarrassed. Professor, you misunderstood. I just suddenly thought of a certain application of my ability just now, so I experimented and didn't specifically warn you. Everyone in the school respects you very much. Speaking of this, Lee Ho-shin smiled, me too. As expected of Professor X, I was noticed by the other party just after I created a system. The other party's telepathy is really powerful. But now Lee Ho-shin is at ease. Of course, it wasn't because Professor X said he wouldn't pry into his heart, but because of his X-gene power. With the mental shielding system to protect his heart, no telepathic mutants, or superhumans, will be able to pry into his heart anymore. For a while, he had a lot of confidence. You are my student, if you have any questions, you can ask me anytime. Preaching, accepting karma, and solving doubts are my responsibilities. Professor X said in a gentle voice. I understand. Lee Ho-shin nodded. Then don't disturb your rest, get back to shape early and join our activities. Professor X said. I will. Lee Ho-shin said. He had just crossed over, and this mutant school could just serve as his refuge. Especially Lee Ho-shin already knew that this era is a very bad era. Danger is everywhere. I have to hurry up and make good use of my X-gene to create the system. Lee Ho-shin took a deep breath and thought secretly. His X-gene is definitely very powerful, and the weakest is Alpha level, and it may even be the legendary Omega level. But if you don't make good use of it, it may not even be as good as the Gamma level. Just now, seeing that Professor X had left, Lee Ho-shin immediately began to recall the feeling he had had before. At that time, I just thought about not being telepathically read by Professor X, reading the secrets in my heart, that feeling. It's like when two people are making out, after reaching the limit, there will be a special impulse. That's the threshold. When it is turned on, it may be life recreation. If it is closed, it may be kneeling down and begging for mercy. Although the metaphor is somewhat inaccurate, Lee Ho-shin feels that when creating the system, there is a strange force in his body, which seems to be that impulse. Once turned on, the system appears. Ding. Really. Fantasizing about the feeling he once had, and the rules he had mastered with both hands since he was 15 years old, Lee Ho-shin finally succeeded in recreating the system. Bask in the sun to strengthen the system and create success. Whoosh. With the emergence of this system, Lee Ho-shin trembled suddenly, as if something was consumed in his body. He felt a little tired. But the spirit has entered a mysterious realm of emptiness. In this state, Li Houshan's brain is not only extremely calm, but also has quick thinking, deduction ability, and logical ability, all of which have been greatly improved. So it is. Previously, it was just a guess, and the method of creating a successful system was barely tried, but it was thoroughly mastered. And he became more and more aware of his X gene. It seems that the special rule power contained in the X gene has a certain amount. If it is exhausted, it will take time to recover. And the more powerful the system, the more powerful it consumes the power of rules. From Li Houshan's point of view, this is considered a disadvantage. However, when recovering the power of rules, you will briefly enter this state of astonishing comprehension, super quick thinking, like a saint. Li Houshan finally understood. Does exposure to the sun strengthen the system? Actually, just now, I wanted to create a sleep-enhancing system, but an action movie about little days flashed through my mind, and that guy's banner subconsciously appeared. So it becomes sunbathing. It seems that the cultural invasion is quite powerful. Unknowingly, the frog is boiled in warm water. Li Houshan looked at the system and couldn't help muttering. This system is not bad. As long as you are exposed to the sun, you will increase your strength, stamina, endurance, frost resistance, fire resistance, and so on. It is almost an improvement of all attributes. It's just that it takes daytime to bask in the sun, which is not as good as Li Houshan's previous plan, which strengthens the system when sleeping, so that he can sleep all day. Forget it. After the power of rules is full next time, just create a system. Li Houshan doesn't think about those anymore. I'm hungry, go get something to eat. He immediately got up from the bed and walked out of the bedroom. Although Li Houshan has all the memories of the school in his mind, how can the things in his memory be seen directly with his eyes? Are they real and real? The teacher in the film speaks well, but it is far less real than the 200 yuan young lady. Soon Li Houshan came to the cafeteria based on his memory. That is, as soon as he came in, Li Houshan's eyes lit up. Cyclops Scott, and Poppy the Iceman, is that little naughty Anna. As soon as Li Houshan entered the cafeteria, he saw many familiar faces. These are the famous X-Men. He has watched the movie many times, but this is the first time in real life. Quite a feeling of seeing a movie star. This is interesting. Li Houshan couldn't help sighing. Soon, he came to the cafeteria and ordered some fast food. This food looks good, it doesn't look any worse than those McDonald's and Kenkiki outside. I really don't know how much money the professor has. Li Houshan couldn't help sighing. There are so many students in the entire mutant school, and the professors are all provided with room and board. How much is this monthly expense? He glanced around, immediately found a place with few people, sat down and prepared to eat. Okay. At this moment, a black-haired girl in her teens suddenly walked over. Sitting in front of Li Houshan. She is. In Li Houshan's mind, some memories suddenly appeared. Clarice Ferguson. He suddenly remembered that this should be the girl with the nickname Blink. According to the memory of the original body, Clarice is not very popular. But Li Houshan also understands this point. After all, where there are people, there are rivers and lakes. And if there are rivers and lakes, there will naturally be circles. So Clarice was out of luck and was excluded from the small circle. After all, there are not many people with black hair in this mutant school. Her ability should be teleportation. Li Houshan has watched X-Men, Days of Future Past. So clearly the ability to blink. Of course none of this matters. Li Houshan is interested in things, although she is called Clarice. But when she grows up, she is a typical Asian beauty. After all, it is Bing Bing. Li, we still have room here, let's eat together. At this time, some students came to the cafeteria. Sorry, I have already found a place, thank you for your invitation. Li Houshan smiled and waved, then walked thinking of Clarice. After all, there are not many black-haired people in this mutant school. Apart from the fact that Clarice is indeed beautiful when she grows up, the main reason is it was also because of the other party's black hair that he found a sense of familiarity. Otherwise, you will face a group of mutants right after time traveling, and you will still be a crooked countryman. Li Houshan was really uncomfortable. Friends, can we have dinner together? So he quickly walked up to Clarice and asked with a smile. What? You, can do it. It seems that no one has ever offered to sit with her, making Clarice suddenly look a little flustered. Sure enough, now it has the appearance of a beauty's embryo. Li Houshan sat down and looked at Clarice carefully. With bright eyes and white teeth, her melon-seeded face and delicate facial features have the characteristics of a typical Oriental beauty. It's just that the eyes are not black because of the mutants, but light green. But this adds a touch of strange beauty. Fortunately, I didn't have any disability when I grew up, and I'm still very beautiful. Li Houshan suddenly thought secretly in his heart. Because he has watched X-Men, Days of Future Past, he knows that Blinking Future is still a beautiful woman, and she is not disabled. After all, many people are very cute when they are young, but they become disabled when they grow up. For example, the child actor who is often taken out to flog the corpse, and the actor who played Harry Potter. Don't be nervous, I don't mean anything malicious, I just want to make friends with you. My name is Li Houshan. He saw Clarice's nervousness, so he smiled and held out his hand. Fortunately, both of them have black hair and look somewhat similar. This made Clarice relax a lot. You. Hello, my name is Clarice Ferguson. Although in Reversal of the Future, Blink used his abilities to help many people, and even restrained the sentries many times, which felt a bit heroic. But now she is still very timid and introverted. So Li Houshan didn't communicate with her too much. After all, when making friends with such an introverted and timid person, you should not be too enthusiastic at the beginning. Otherwise, the other party will not be able to adapt, and will instinctively want to refuse to dodge. So Li Houshan smiled at Clarice and began to eat. He was indeed a little hungry. Seeing Li Houshan started to eat, Clarice also chewed and ate slowly. After a while, she finally finished eating, then wiped the corners of her mouth, and slowly raised her head. But he found that Li Houshan was looking at him with a smile. Is there something on my face? Clarice hurriedly wiped her face again with a tissue. Of course not, I just suddenly discovered that you fit the definition of beauty in my hometown. Like a little fairy, Li Houshan said with a smile. What? Clarice blushed instantly, but soon a trace of sadness flashed in her eyes, and she muttered softly. No more, they all say I'm ugly. How come? They say you are ugly, just because they don't know how to appreciate the beauty of the East. Li Houshan just shook his head. Not to mention the flashes of the future, even the current Clarice is an absolutely perfect little beauty. This age is when I was in junior high school. If it is in China, I am afraid that the hormones of those young boys have already been secreted. Really? Hearing what Li Houshan said, Clarice raised her head and asked expectantly. Of course, didn't I tell you that I wanted to be your friend, so how could I lie to you? What's more, if you are really ugly, I won't be friends with you. Li Houshan said with a smile. Thank you. Clarice raised her head immediately, her eyes were touched, and she whispered. See you later. He immediately got up and said no more. Make friends, step by step. After all, Clarice has the reserve and introversion of an Oriental woman. It's not like Western women, who go straight up to boast and then ask for contact information. As long as the other party doesn't hate you, good luck. You can spend a wonderful night at night. Then the next day, each went back to each house to find each mother. It's so free and unrestrained. Thank you, Li. Looking at the leaving figure, Clarice's eyes turned slightly red. Because this is the first time someone has praised her, respected her, and valued her. After leaving the cafeteria, Li Houshan came to the library. My ex-gene, although according to my guess, is created by rules. But whether there are other abilities, or derivative abilities of a certain ability, I need to confirm carefully. Li Houshan secretly thought in his heart. After all, the X-gene is still too mysterious. It is not so easy to master. The evolution of life is a long journey. Maybe 10,000 years, or even tens of thousands of years. The source of evolution is the mutation of genes. Want to? Li Houshan sat on the ground, flipping through books about genes. I don't know if it's because of the mutants. Not only does he have a photographic memory when reading books, but he can also quickly relate the contents of the book to what he has learned in the past. Infer other cases from one instance, and even build a reasonable knowledge network. This made Li Houshan couldn't help sighing. If he had this ability in his previous life, I'm afraid I can be admitted to Qingbei in minutes, and then sprint for a doctorate. Finally become a top talent in a certain field. Thanks to this ability, Li Haoshan became more and more addicted to reading these data. The charm of knowledge is that you can master it. Those who feel sleepy after reading a book, or feel dizzy after reading a book. In fact, it's not that they hate knowledge, it's just that they can't learn it. So it's just an instinctive refusal. But once you can master this knowledge, swim in the ocean of knowledge, you will find how magnificent and wonderful it is. Of course, in addition to these books, Li Haoshan has rapidly increased his knowledge and knowledge. There is another aspect, that is the afternoon sun, warm and genial, shining on him, making Li Haoshan stronger every second. After all, his system becomes stronger when exposed to the sun. So for a while, Li Haoshan not only gained a lot of knowledge, but also became much stronger physically. Strength, reaction nerves, skin toughness, 5 senses, etc. All are growing stronger at an incredible speed. It's no wonder that when reading novels before, once the protagonists have a system, they will be in the air every second. It turns out that there is a system, which is really cool. Li Haoshan couldn't help thinking secretly. After all, if you don't do anything, you can become stronger just by basking in the sun for a while. Is there anything cooler than this? Yes, the next time you create one, the breath will become stronger, how about it? Li Haoshan suddenly thought of it. If there is no previous experience, the breath will become stronger, wouldn't it be easier? After all, whether it is getting stronger while sleeping, or getting stronger after basking in the sun, there are prerequisites. The prerequisite for breathing to become stronger is even simpler. After all, people have to breathe to live. In this way, Li Haoshan is really getting stronger every moment. Thinking of this, Li Haoshan was in a good mood, and read the book with even more relish. And because he has been getting stronger, the brain and width, quick thinking ability and so on. It seems that they are getting stronger all the time. Therefore, the ability to understand is becoming more and more abnormal. According to the book, the X gene of mutants actually has an upper limit. I use the X gene to create a system, did I circumvent this limit? Then this is considered a bug. Li Haoshan suddenly became thoughtful. He has seen the Marvel series. According to the setting, Magneto, Professor X and others, let alone a single universe that destroys the universe. Just wanting to destroy the Earth is not that simple. And that's still comics, the setting in the movie, I'm afraid it's even difficult to control a large-scale war. Calculated, it is actually only a planetary level. Otherwise, the mutants will not be used by Xavier anymore. I'm afraid they will turn themselves over and enslave humans as their masters. Li Haoshan shook his head. The settings in the comics are actually quite abnormal. But in reality, it's far from it. Of course, some people would say that Chin, to be precise, is Phoenix Girl, a powerful pervert. Belongs to the unique tree. But that is not the ability of mutants, but the power of the Phoenix. And it can't be controlled every time, except for destruction and violence. My X gene may also be Omega level. Li Haoshan secretly thought in his heart. His X gene is a bit special, and it cannot be measured simply by its strength. Just like now, the system he created strengthens when he basks in the sun. It can make the cells of Li Haoshan's whole body produce a special change under the sunlight. This enhances the body in all directions. But this perception is vague and undirected. If there is no upper limit to my evolution, then my X gene may be able to. Beyond the Omega class, Li Haoshan also had some expectations. He raised his head and moved his whole body. A force several times stronger than before filled the whole body. Just simply reading the book for a while, he became several times stronger. It's great to have a system. Although this system was created through his X gene, Li Haoshan couldn't help but sigh. The sun is not bad, it looks like you can watch it for a while. Stretching, Li Haoshan was ready to continue reading. But suddenly he subconsciously saw a black-haired girl sitting in a corner not far away. The other party seemed to be wearing earphones, quietly reading a book there. Andersen's Fairy Tales. Li Haoshan was a little surprised, he didn't expect Clarice to come too. I didn't notice it just now because I read the book too seriously. At this point in time, most of the girls are playing games with others. Li Haoshan couldn't help shaking his head. After all, apart from him, only Clarice was left in this huge library. So it can be seen that the other party is really lonely. However, if I remember correctly, in the manga I read, Clarice's adoptive father is a saber-toothed tiger. According to the current time point, he should still be in elementary school. But she is already a young girl of 13 or 14 years old. It seems that the time point of this chaotic Marvel world is completely inconsistent with the comics and movies I know. This is a little troublesome. Lee Ho-shin shook his head. His biggest advantage is that he has a very good understanding of the characters and plots in comics and movies. Even if you dare not call it omniscient and omnipotent, it is almost the same. But now it seems that the timeline of this world is not accurate. If it is calculated in this way, it is very likely that the plot will be slightly different. Forget it, anyway, in the Marvel world, there are so many parallel universes, the time is not accurate. There's nothing wrong with confusion now. Lee Ho-shin sighed softly, rubbed his head, and stopped thinking about it. The more I think about it, the more I get a headache. After reading the book for a while, the sun gradually set. So Lee Ho-shin left quietly. He didn't bother Clarice. After all, the days to come are still long, so there is no need to rush for this moment. 3 days passed in a flash. Lee Ho-shin has become more and more familiar with Xavier College. To be more precise, he has completely merged with the original body. From this moment on, Lee Ho-shin completely became a complete Lee Ho-shin. The power of rules in the body seems to have recovered a bit, and it seems that it won't take long before the second system can be created. He lay on the lawn looking at the sky, feeling the warm sun. The cells get stronger again, and his strength is constantly growing. Maybe I should test it, how strong it is now. Should be better than Spider-Man. When watching that movie, Lee Ho-shin sighed. The poor rely on mutation, and the rich rely on technology. After Peter Parker was bitten by a spider, he gained a super strong body and the ability of a spider. All of a sudden, Shan Yu turned around. Become the famous Spider-Man behind. But the current Lee Ho-shin feels that he is much stronger than the original Spider-Man. In addition to feeling the explosive power all over his body, Lee Ho-shin could even clearly see the crawling ants on the leaves and the vibrating wings of flies flying more than 10 meters away. His vision has been enhanced to a level close to dynamic vision. This is definitely no worse than Spider-Man's spider compound eyes. Even my reaction speed and thinking ability have been greatly improved. Lee Ho-shin suddenly looked forward to it. As he thought in his heart, he enjoyed the increase of the warm sun. Time gradually passed. In the twinkling of an eye, the sunset is west and dusk is approaching. Without the sun to bask in, then Lee Ho-shin's boost time is over. Now is the time to enter and enjoy. But before that, I still have to test how strong I am now. Lee Ho-shin thought of this, and immediately walked towards the school's training hall. There is some training equipment there. In fact, Xavier Academy has a better place to test his true strength. It's just that ordinary people are not qualified to use that place. Unless I become an X-Men. That's right, the place Lee Ho-shin mentioned is the training ground of the X-Men. But ordinary students are not qualified to use that training ground. But he is not in a hurry. After all, he was just an office worker a few days ago. Although the salary is good, but in terms of strength, although it is not enough to beat elementary school students, it is better for middle and high school students. He also wants to take it easy. After all, the current student party is fierce. So although I feel the power in my body exploding, my eyesight is even better. But Lee Ho-shin is still very humble, thinking that the ordinary training ground is enough for him to test. Soon, Lee Ho-shin came to the school's training ground. Looking at the training ground, which is bigger than a basketball court, Lee Ho-shin couldn't help sighing again. The professor is really rich. Xavier College is also really big. Go and test your strength first. He glanced around, basically all the fitness equipment was there. And many are in plus sizes. After all, even if it is an ordinary training ground, the people here are not ordinary people. The bodies of mutants are generally stronger than ordinary people. Even if it's not a powerful mutant, but affected by the X gene in the body, it will also make the overall quality surpass ordinary people. I remember before, it seemed that I could only lift a 60 jin barbell. Li Houshan immediately walked towards the exaggerated-looking dumbbell beside him. On both sides of the dumbbell, there are 6 dumbbell plates hanging on each side. Each one is 10 pounds. In other words, a dumbbell has a full weight of 120 pounds. It is equivalent to a weight close to 109 kgs. As expected of the training ground of the mutant school, a random dumbbell can be compared to the barbell in an ordinary gym. Li Houshan shook his head helplessly. Although there are a few smaller ones next to it, most of them are bigger than the 120-pound dumbbell in front of me. I feel the power in my body exploding. One punch can kill a cow. A dumbbell weighing about 100 kgs should be fine, right? He immediately walked up to the dumbbell, clasped it firmly with both hands, and then lifted it violently. Boom! Suddenly, a powerful force penetrated his arm instantly. This strength is definitely more than 1,000 kgs, or even more. For a moment, Li Houshan didn't react at all. He fell back directly. With a plop, he fell to the ground. Quote. Is my strength so great? Li Houshan was suddenly a little dazed. This is something he never thought of. Li, are you okay? At this moment, Clarice came in, saw Li Houshan lying on the ground and hurried over to ask. I'm fine. Li Houshan was suddenly a little embarrassed. I wanted to test the strength, but I didn't expect that the strength was too strong and I didn't hug it. This scene happened to be seen by Clarice, who had just arrived at the training ground. Are you here for training? Li Houshan looked at Clarice curiously. The other party was wearing a white sports t-shirt, and the blue round neck highlighted his fair neck. Although they are only 13 or 14 years old, they are cute and have already begun to take shape. The lower body is a pair of blue sports tight shorts. It makes a pair of straight and round thighs look very slender. The delicate face and the bright eyes with purple lines exude the youthful vitality of a girl. Compared with the cafeteria and library, it looks less quiet and more enchanting and energetic. Especially the cute and white and long, paired with tight shorts, the looming bun. Cough. Li Houshan's face turned red immediately. What was he thinking? The other party was just a child. Well, although the Western world opened up very early. But people can't do this, at least they shouldn't. Well, I want to master my abilities as soon as possible. The professor said that the body is very important. So I often come to the training ground to exercise. Clarice said seriously. You were really hardworking. Li Houshan couldn't help but praise. Thank you. Maybe it was because no one had ever praised her, which made Clarice blush instantly. Yo, isn't this Clarice? You really made it easy for us to find for a while. I didn't expect you to hide here quietly. Are you dating someone else? I used to pretend to be so reserved, so I'm also an idiot. At this moment, 3 uninvited guests also walked in from the outside. Jason, I told you that I don't want to be your friend. Clarice said with some fear. You don't want to be my friend. Do you want to be with that yellow-skinned pig? Among the 3, the boy Jason, who was the leader, immediately said with disdain. You. Clarice's complexion changed suddenly, and she was so wrong that she was about to cry. Jason, 15 years old, is the ability of a mutant a strength increase. The other 2, the 14-year-old mutant Yorkie, have the power to grow their bodies. 16-year-old Spike, the mutant power is canine. Seeing these 3 people, their information immediately appeared in Li Houshan's memory. All 3 are in the same class as Clarice. It's just that the 3 formed a small circle and often bullied weaker classmates. Li Houshan is in another class, so he doesn't have much contact with these 3 people. In the past, the school bully was the thing I hated the most. I didn't expect to travel to this chaotic world of beautiful comics, but I can still meet them. Li Houshan narrowed his eyes immediately. In his previous life, he was bullied for reporting school bullies. Later, I realized an important thing. That is bullying against school bullies. The only way is violence with violence. It seems that no matter where you go, you can't avoid clichés. Li Houshan shook his head. After all, he is nearly 30 years old with the addition of the 2 lives. It's not like the group of youngsters in front of me have the same knowledge. But the premise is that the other party doesn't come to provoke him. Li Houshan, do you know that this Clarice is my Jason's girlfriend? But the world is so bloody. When you don't want to provoke others, there will always be people who stick to you with disdain. I have no idea. Li Houshan stood up slowly. Although he also has a good impression of Clarice, and even has a little idea. But after all, Clarice is still just a girl now. For him, it's just a developmental stage. But if Clarice does have a boy she likes, Li Houshan doesn't have the hobby of snatching him up and prying someone's corner. After all, he is not a sow thief. No, Li, don't listen to Jason's nonsense, I'm not his girlfriend at all. At this time, Clarice spoke anxiously. For some reason, Clarice didn't want to be misunderstood by this boy with the same black hair as her. I never promised him, and I hate him. So Clarice quickly shook her head. Oh, now you hear that. Li Houshan laughed immediately. If Clarice admits her relationship with Jason, then he turns around and leaves without saying a word. But now it was clear that Clarice didn't like Jason at all. You fool, do you want to be avoided by the class all your life? Jason was furious. Clarice's refusal made him very embarrassed in front of his two friends. I said, brother Jason, don't talk nonsense, let's teach this yellow-skinned pig a lesson first. At this time, the 14-year-old Yorkney next to her suddenly showed a cruel smile that did not match her age. Although I am of mixed Mexican and Han race, I really don't like the 3 words you said. So you're going to pay for it. Li Houshan's face suddenly became indifferent. He can tolerate these brats and do things that brats should do. After all, it was the responsibility of those teachers at Xavier Academy to teach them how to behave. It is also the duty of Professor X, the dean. But Li Houshan absolutely does not allow anyone to insult the Chinese. Although he is not a pure blood in this life, but Li Houshan's soul. But they are genuine Sha Guahua people. Please shut up. Just when Li Houshan was about to make a move, Clarice stood up. Li is my best friend. I will absolutely not allow you to insult him, please shut up immediately. Otherwise, Clarice immediately stood in front of Li Houshan. After all, when she came to the training room just now, she saw that Li Houshan seemed to be crushed by a 100 jin dumbbell and couldn't get up. Don't look at her as a 13 or 14-year-old girl, but due to mutant genes. Even if she is not a strong type, she can definitely afford the 100 jin dumbbell. Therefore, Clarice instinctively thought that Li Houshan had just awakened the X gene and his body was too weak. As Clarice said earlier, deep in her heart, he has long regarded Li Houshan as his best friend, even his only friend. So she absolutely does not allow others to bully him. This is the first time Clarice has summoned up the courage to stand up and resist since she was a child. You really are a stinky fool. It's your luck that I, Jason, have taken a fancy to you. But not only did you reject me, but you also want to fight against me for this yellow-skinned pig. Jason suddenly became furious. There is quite a feeling of a piece of Hulenbuir prairie on the head. I said, I don't like to hear those 3 words. Li Houshan immediately grabbed Clarice and walked over. Li, come back quickly. Seeing Li Houshan walking out, Clarice became anxious immediately. Jason is a strong mutant, while Li Houshan is a newcomer who can't even lift a 100 jin dumbbell. For a moment, Clarice was so anxious that she was about to cry. Brother Jason, you don't need to take action to deal with this kind of yellow skin. Yorkney suddenly sneered and walked out from behind. He himself hates Sha people the most. Because of his ancestors, some people had participated in the invasion war that year. It is a pity that the ancestors who were invaders were left on that land forever. But before he finished speaking, he suddenly felt a sharp pain on his face. Then Yorkney saw a familiar body. That's my body. He immediately stared, full of disbelief. It wasn't until this moment that he realized that at some point, his head was blown away. It's just that its mutant ability can lengthen and stretch any part of its body. So at this moment, he was slapped and slapped his head. The neck is even more stretched. Lao Xiaohe, who looks like a black ball, is very long, but very weak, with his head drooping and hanging. What? When Jason saw this scene, his expression changed drastically. You know, although Yorkney's mutant ability is that the body can be lengthened or shortened at will. But that doesn't mean his body is soft. If he doesn't want to change the length of his body has the strong toughness like rubber. But just like that, Li Houshan slapped his head away and pulled him far away. This shows that the opponent's strength is amazing. No one has ever known what kind of mutant ability Lee Ho-shin looks like. Now it seems that the other party is very likely to be a power mutant like me. Jason's face suddenly became serious. Powerful mutants have very powerful melee combat abilities. Very good at hand-to-hand combat. And judging from the speed and strength of the opponent's shot just now, the opponent is not weaker than him at all. Although he is domineering and likes to bully his classmates, he is definitely not a fool. Speak, let's go together. Jason suddenly spoke in a low voice. Okay, Jason. Spike also became serious. His mutant ability is canine, although not a pure strength mutant. But after using the ability, the speed, strength and toughness will increase several times. But let Spike blow Yorkney's head off at once, stretching his neck so long. Neither can he. So now the situation is clear. Lee Ho-shin is very likely to be a pure strength mutant, and he must not be careless when dealing with this kind of person. Because pure strength mutants have good toughness and great strength. If you hit him, he can bear it. But if he hits you, you may not be able to bear it. There are two easiest ways to deal with this type of mutants. Otherwise, use long-range strikes and use kite tactics to consume him alive. Otherwise, use more strength to fight him close to death. Obviously, Jason chose the second option. I'm also a strength mutant, so I don't believe that your strength is stronger than mine. Strength increase, 20 times. Jason suddenly lowered his voice, and rushed forward with a drink. And as soon as he came up, he didn't hold back his hands, and directly used his full strength. Careful, Clarice suddenly exclaimed. Jason's ability to bully other students in the class is not just about being able to speak harshly. He himself is a power mutant, and his basic power is stronger than other mutants. It has a full strength of 500 caddies. And after using the power of mutants, after a 20-fold increase, it will be a full 1 caddies. Equivalent to 5 tons of power. What a terrifying power to deal 5 tons of damage with one punch. Don't worry, I won't kill you, otherwise I will be punished by the professor. I'll just break your legs, and then your hands. Then pull out your teeth, and let you know the fate of offending me, how miserable it is. Jason suddenly showed a cruel smile. Although he is only 14 years old, at this moment he looks like a demon descending. It doesn't feel very strong. Seeing this scene, Lee Ho-shin frowned slightly. Although the opponent was so powerful, Clarice exclaimed even more. But Lee Ho-shin felt that although this punch was not bad, but it didn't scare him yet. It seems that I can take it. It's an intuition. He raised his hand subconsciously, and punched it hard. With a bang, the two fists met together. It's over. Clarice was taken aback for a moment, and turned around quickly to find the teacher. If the treatment is timely, with the mutant's recovery ability, maybe even a cure. Otherwise, Lee Ho-shin could only become a disabled person. And Clarice, who regards Lee Ho-shin as her only friend, absolutely cannot accept this scene, nor can she see her become a disabled person. Lee Ho-shin will definitely be bullied by then. And Clarice, who has been bullied since she was a child, knows best how uncomfortable it is to be bullied. What? However, at this moment, a scream rang out. Clarice suddenly paused and looked back subconsciously. But he saw a scene that made him unbelievable. I saw Jason's right arm twisted weirdly, the bones of the forearm even pierced through the skin, and the muscles were exposed. This. Clarice covered her mouth with her little hand, looking at the scene in front of her in shock. Lee Ho-shin competed with Jason, a power mutant. Not only one, but also in the upper hand. How can that be? Spike, who was about to make a move, suddenly trembled and stopped. He who has just completed his canine transformation now looks very much like Erha after being beaten by a Tibetan Mastiff. Jason's punch is powerful. His eyes were full of horror and fear. Even if he completes the animal transformation, his strength is only about 2 tons. But Jason, who is a pure strength type, has a full 5 tons of strange strength. Such a terrifying strength, but now it has lost to the thin yellow skin in front of him. Spike immediately stopped thinking, not daring to say these 3 words again. The opponent was able to punch Jason's right arm off. Then you can kill him with 1 punch. Even if there is a professor at Xavier College, no murder will really happen. But he didn't want to be crippled either. My hand. Jason clutched his arms and rolled all over the floor, howling in pain. After all, he was just a 14-year-old student after all. Although due to the genes of mutants, their strength is much higher than that of ordinary people. But there is not much difference in hard nature. I don't want to see you next to Clarice in the future, let alone hear those 3 words. Otherwise, I don't mind tearing your mouth apart. Lee Ho-shin said calmly. It's just that his heart was a little shaken. It turns out that my strength is so great. At this moment, he finally had a practical understanding of his own strength. According to his memory, this Jason is a pure strength mutant. Under one punch, there is a force close to 5 tons. But the opponent couldn't stop his punch. This shows that Lee Ho-shin's strength is definitely above 5 tons. I only used about half of the power just now, which is equivalent to 5 tons of power. Then, from this point of view, I should have a strength close to 10 tons. Lee Ho-shin's heart trembled suddenly. Even he himself was frightened by this statistic. As expected of a person with a system, it's really cool. For this result, Lee Ho-shin is very satisfied. However, now that I have the system, creating a property panel shouldn't be a problem. He suddenly remembered one thing. That is, he doesn't have to come here for a ridiculous test. Create a property panel directly, don't you know your current situation completely? It's really stupid. You forgot such an important thing. Lee Ho-shin was suddenly amused. It's a pity that he had read so many system stream novels before. But even such an important thing has been forgotten. Jason raised his head immediately, and looked at Lee Ho-shin jealously, obviously very angry inside. Enough. At this time, a man and a woman walked in outside the training ground. Storm Orlo and Cyclops Scott. Lee Ho-shin looked up and recognized the 2 people at a glance. That's the end of this matter. I don't want there to be fights of a bad nature in the school. Cyclops Scott spoke. Teacher, he broke my hand. Jason roared suddenly. To shut up. Jason, don't think I don't know. In the past 2 years, you have secretly cooperated with your classmates to isolate Clarice and bully other weak students. Originally, I was thinking about these few days, and find a time to give you a good warning. Now it is Lee Ho-shin who directly taught you a lesson, which is also a good thing for you. I hope you take it as a warning. Storm Orlo spoke. This is not because she is a teacher in the academy, and there is no way to make a public move. Orlo couldn't help but want to teach this nasty Jason a lesson. He's not very young, but he's pretty bad. Jason, your ability has not improved very much in the past 2 years, but your personality has swelled tremendously. I hope you will not be influenced by the power of mutants and go astray. Otherwise, that day, the me you faced would not be a teacher at Xavier College. It's me as the X-Men. Cyclops Scott said indifferently. In his bones, he looked down on Jason, a waste who bullied his own people. It's just that Professor X wants everyone at Xavier College to be like one family. Lee Ho-shin, your performance is very good. Be able to stand up at critical moments and protect the bullied companions. I hope you can keep your original intention forever, and not be swallowed by the power of mutants. Storm Riololo said. Later, the 2 chatted briefly with Lee Ho-shin and Clarice. This turned to leave. The 3 of them, Jason, who were in a panic, left together. What do you think? After returning to the teaching building, Storm Girl looked at Cyclops. It's incredible. That thin Lee Ho-shin actually possessed the terrifying power to break the arm of Jason, a pure strength mutant, with one punch. Scott also said in shock. The 2 of them didn't show it before, just to maintain the image of the X-Men. At this moment, both of them saw the shock in each other's eyes. According to what the professor said a few days ago, Lee Ho-shin seems to have the ability to block spiritual perception. But I didn't expect that his power is so powerful. The Storm Girl also sighed. However, although the 2 were shocked, they did not feel puzzled. After all, the abilities of mutants are complex and changeable, and there are all kinds of them. It is possible for a person to have 2 or more abilities. Even in school, there are people who have more than 2 abilities. This is not surprising. It's just that Lee Ho-shin's strength is indeed very strong, and with the eyesight of the 2 of them, it can be seen at a glance. The strength of the opponent definitely exceeds 10 tons. The terrifying strength of more than 10 tons, in terms of strength alone, is not weaker than that of the newly awakened Colossus. Scott said. Of course, after so many battles and training, their strength has long been much stronger than when they first awakened. I think I can propose to the professor that Lee Ho-shin be included in the list of X-Men interns. Storm Maiden Orlo said. Look at it for a while, if the other party is really okay, then apply to the professor. The two looked at each other and nodded. Obviously Lee Ho-shin's strength, as well as his character, have been recognized by the two of them. On the other hand, seeing Storm and Cyclops leaving, Lee Ho-shin looked at Clarice. Thank you for coming out to protect me just now, you are the bravest girl I have ever seen. Lee Ho-shin said with a smile. I don't have any. Hearing what Lee Ho-shin said, Clarice blushed instantly. In fact, she didn't think so much at all just now, Clarice just didn't want her only friend to be bullied. But thinking about it now, Clarice suddenly felt that she had really changed a lot. In the past, she definitely didn't dare to do this. And all this changed because of Lee Ho-shin. It's me who should say thank you. After figuring this out, Clarice said in a low voice. What did you say? Lee Ho-shin was thinking about creating attribute templates. So did not hear Clarice's words. Boo. But knowing that Lee Ho-shin asked again, Clarice stepped forward and gave Lee Ho-shin a poke on his face. Then, like a shy deer, it jumped and ran away happily. Quote. I was raped. Lee Ho-shin immediately shook his head helplessly, but he was flattered in his heart. There is already a better way to test his all-round attributes, and it is useless for Lee Ho-shin to stay in this training ground. So he left the training ground directly and walked towards his dormitory. Soon Lee Ho-shin returned to the dormitory. Then used the power of rules that has been restored in the body to start creating attribute templates. After all, there has been experience creating two systems. So this time, I am familiar with the road, and the attribute template will be created soon. Host, Lee Ho-shin. Strength, 11 tons. Spirit, 121, 3 for normal people. Physical strength, 1010 for ordinary people. Speed, 50 meters per second. System space, 100 cubic meters. Possessed systems, mental shielding system, sun exposure to become stronger system. Sure enough, my strength has exceeded 10 tons. Lee Ho-shin looked at the attribute template, and his eyes suddenly brightened. With this template, his power can be more systematic and digitized, and presented in front of his eyes. The spirit is equivalent to 40 times that of ordinary people, and the physical strength is 100 times. The speed is a bit short, only about 10 times that of ordinary people. Lee Ho-shin muttered to himself. But after all, I haven't created the system for a long time, and it's already very good to have this value. Lee Ho-shin is still very satisfied with the values on the attribute panel. After all, the original body is just a rookie. Empty has a powerful X gene, but cannot use its mutant abilities. Now Lee Ho-shin has used the ability of the X gene, which can be regarded as a perfect release of the mutant ability. Then just wait for it to become stronger. Lee Ho-shin was not in a hurry about this. Compared with others, you have to train hard and improve yourself crazily. Lee Ho-shin only needs to bask in the sun and drink tea to become stronger. And when his rule power is fully charged, Lee Ho-shin can create a new system again. Next time, just create a breath and strengthen the system. Lee Ho-shin thought beautifully in his heart. Otherwise, the system will be strengthened by exposure to the sun, which is still somewhat limited, and it can only be strengthened during the day. However, it seems that the more powerful the system, the more power of rules it needs. I don't know if I can create a breath to strengthen the system after I fully store it. If it doesn't work, change it to drinking to get stronger or sleeping to get stronger. In this way, you can become stronger all day, night, and around the clock. Lee Ho-shin suddenly had a calculation in his mind. Let's go to the library to read. After the attribute panel was created, Lee Ho-shin suddenly found that he had nothing to do. After all, he doesn't need to train hard to become stronger. Basic physical fitness and basic strength are strong reliance, but I have more fighting methods, which can also make my strength better. Thinking of this, Lee Ho-shin is going to the library to find some fighting books to read. Time passed by little, and it was another day in a blink of an eye. On the way to the classroom in the morning, the fighting skills he saw yesterday were still flashing in Lee Ho-shin's mind. Because his mental strength is 40 times that of ordinary people, he can easily achieve his photographic memory. But even if you can't forget it, seeing it with your eyes doesn't mean your body has learned it. This is not good. Suddenly Li Houshan froze for a moment. Why did I forget and do something stupid again? Li Houshan couldn't help but giggled immediately. Since I can create a system, why don't I create a system that can be seen at a glance? In this way, there is no need to study those fighting moves hard. You just need to watch more fighting movies and the battles of the strong. You can learn it in an instant. It seems that my X gene is really awesome. I have to dig out all its potential. Li Houshan muttered to himself immediately. After all, his time as a mutant is too short, and he is not that proficient in mastering the X gene. But these don't matter. After all, this can be regarded as enjoying the fun of becoming stronger a little bit. Li Houshan immediately comforted himself. While thinking, he came to the corridor of the classroom. Yo, isn't this our good friend Li? At this time, they met Jason and Yorkney. But the three of them obviously lost their hostility, especially in Jason's eyes, as if they were looking at their friends for many years. How is this going? Li Houshan suddenly frowned slightly. Because of the performance of the three of Jason, it seemed a little abnormal. Definitely a problem. Even if he showed great strength yesterday, it made Jason and others afraid. But when the other party was about to leave, the hostility, hatred, and resentment in his eyes. It's all very obvious, but at this moment it disappeared. It seems that the two have no enmity at all, but have been friends for many years. This weird scene immediately made Li Houshan vigilant. No need to worry. I simply modified their memories and thoughts. At this moment, Professor X's voice appeared in Li Houshan's mind. Come to my office. Professor X extended an invitation to Li Houshan. Although Li Houshan was a little puzzled and even wary, he still walked towards Professor X's office. Soon, Li Houshan came to Professor X's office. At this moment, he was sitting in a wheelchair looking out the window, surrounded by Orlo the Storm. When the other party saw Li Houshan coming in, he immediately nodded with a smile. Being able to make me, Storm Girl, take the initiative to say hello, shows that Li Houshan has indeed been approved by her. Li Houshan politely responded with a smile. Then he looked at Professor X. Are you wondering, why should I do this? Professor X didn't look back, still looking out the window. Not bad. Li Houshan didn't hide it either, and directly asked out the doubts in his heart. All my life, I have been studying the difference between ordinary people and mutants. The final conclusion, do you know what it is? The professor turned his head slowly and looked at Li Houshan. Don't know. Li Houshan shook his head. How can I easily understand what you, a professor, have been studying for a lifetime? And in fact, Li Houshan is not very interested in these things. There is a difference between ordinary people and mutants, or there is no difference. In fact, he has only one purpose from beginning to end. That is to live well and live better. It was like this in the previous life, and it is still like this in this life. It's just that if possible, Li Houshan really wants to become stronger. Once you have the ability, go back to the world you used to see. After all, his parents are still alive, even though he has traveled through this life, the opening character of a certain orphanage is still indispensable, becoming an orphan. But in his last life, he had parents. And his parents love him, and the family is happy and harmonious. If there is a chance, he definitely wants to go back to the previous world. At least give parents a pension and accompany them through the final journey. This requires great strength. The current Li Houshan is far behind. So he just kept this regret in his heart. Chapter 11. The biggest difference is not just the mutation of the body, but the change of the mind. Seeing Li Houshan like this, Professor X smiled helplessly. Obviously Li Houshan's appearance is different from most of the people he studied. It's a rare case. Perhaps it's because of the X gene, which made me discover that almost the vast majority of mutants will have mental problems after awakening. Their personalities will be extremely magnified and even distorted. Otherwise, it will expand the dark side infinitely. Become more irritable, cruel, and bloodthirsty. Otherwise, it will become a distorted personality, and even a reverse personality may appear. Now I dare not contact the outside world, I am afraid of my own ability, and even in serious cases, I will start to hate myself and behave self-harm. And this is the mind of almost all mutants. That's why I wanted to create Xavier College, hoping to give them a spiritual sustenance. in order to guide them correctly and let them get out of the obstacles of their hearts. The professor said slowly. This is his original intention. Then Jason and the others? Li Houshan asked immediately. Professor X has said it before. Jason and the others had changed their memory because the professor applied the ability of mutants to change their memory. This made Li Houshan a little puzzled. Isn't it to guide them? Then why forcefully change their memories and even their personalities? Although my responsibility is to guide them out of their spiritual defects and complete self-salvation. Be the one who harnesses the power, not the one who is harnessed by the power. But you have to understand that sometimes it is useless to rely on guidance alone, that is to say, persuasion and education. The professor said with a smile. But Li Houshan felt a chill in his heart. He suddenly felt that he knew too little about Professor X before. Many people say that the professor is too holy, whether it is human or mutant. Almost all of them use the method of not killing. And it's the old pardon hat. But Professor X in front of him made Li Houshan a little strange. Even feel terrible. It turned out that he was not a good old lady, but a person with his own principles, in order to implement the ideas. He is even willing to forcibly use his abilities to change other people's memories and personalities. Although the professor said that he doesn't like manipulating people's hearts, what he's doing now. Li Houshan suddenly understood one thing. That's why Professor X defeated Magneto several times without killing him. Even those other mutants who were in trouble with Magneto and others. It's all about laissez-faire. It's just a defeat, and it's almost impossible to kill. It turns out that he doesn't want to kill, but needs a white glove. Li Houshan suddenly realized. He suddenly thought of Hokage Konoha village. On the surface there was the burning wool of 3 generations of fire. But under the light, there are also roots in the darkness of Danzo. Magneto is the white glove of the professor. Maybe he didn't understand this until Magneto died. Li Houshan felt the fear of the professor more and more. Perhaps only such a professor is the real him. And the good old man, the White Lotus, and the monk of the Virgin Mary in other people's population. It's all just one-sided. From this moment on, Li Houshan firmly remembered the professor in his heart. He has to be on his guard all the time. I asked you to come here. On the one hand, I am worried that you have too many thoughts and have problems with your mind. On the other hand, Orlo mentioned to me about getting you on the X-Men trainee list. The professor looked at Li Houshan and said with a smile. He didn't know that Li Houshan, who had long been familiar with the plot of the entire X-Men series, had already labeled the professor a terrible label deep in his heart. Don't worry, professor, I won't think too much about it. Li Houshan immediately smiled back. Now he still needs to hibernate and behave in a low-key manner. Otherwise, Professor X will forcibly change the memory if it is not done well. Even if he has a mental shielding system, he doesn't dare to be careless in the slightest. After all, the strength of the professor runs through the entire X-Men series. As for joining the X-Men as an intern, I still need to think about it. I have just truly awakened the X gene and mastered the ability of mutants. I'm not very proficient yet, and I still need to seriously reflect on myself and explore myself. Li Houshan said. If there was no attribute panel before, Li Houshan still wanted to join the X-Men. After all, in it, you can monitor your own strength and attribute data more accurately. But now he has created the property panel. Fully self-monitoring. Then there is no need to join the X-Men. Especially now, Li Houshan became more and more wary of the professor. His X gene is just too buggy. Although the combat power is not necessarily the strongest, the short talk is ability, diversity and flexibility. The abilities of other mutants are hardly comparable. So Li Houshan can't guarantee that the professor doesn't care. But Li Houshan believes that he also feels that he is an Omega-level mutant. As long as he becomes stronger, he won't be afraid of Professor X anymore. That's when he had a showdown. As for now, the time has not come. Mental shielding system. Has my memory been modified? Thinking of this, Li Houshan's heart suddenly moved, and he couldn't help asking. This is what he is most afraid of happening now. Master, please rest assured that the mental shielding system has not detected any damage. The voice of the system suddenly came from Li Houshan's mind. Fortunately, his X gene is indeed powerful. When creating the attribute panel last time, Li Hoshan also simply improved the intelligence of the system. System, are you able to defend against the professor's spiritual power now? Li Hoshan suddenly asked in his heart. I'm sorry, master, my strength is too weak, although I can detect whether the other party launches a psychic attack. But the opponent's spiritual power is too strong. With my current level, I can't defend myself. However, as the master becomes stronger and stronger, my defense ability will also become stronger. The system replied, as expected of a professor. For this answer, Li Hoshan was not surprised. After all, the strength of the professor is really strong. Although it can't be defended, it is enough to at least be able to perceive whether the opponent is using spiritual power. And I am improving every day, and the defense of the mental shielding system will become stronger and stronger. Li Hoshan immediately relaxed in his heart. If only someone could change your thoughts and memories without knowing it. That would be horrible. Especially thinking about the previous performance of Jason and others, Li Hoshan couldn't help but feel his scalp tingle. Fortunately, he has the protection of the mental shielding system. As long as the spiritual strength is not far superior to him, even if it is several times higher, it can be resisted. What's more, Li Hoshan is improving all the time, and I'm afraid it won't take long. Even the professor can't influence him anymore. However, the professor is not as holy as I imagined, I must always be vigilant. He thought secretly in his heart. So you don't have to worry about Jason's affairs. The professor said with a smile. But professor, have you ever thought that you think this is the correct guidance? Since ancient times, people's hearts have been unpredictable and sinister. If one day, the person whose memory you have modified knows these things, maybe what is waiting for you is not gratitude, but anger and resentment. Because nobody likes being that muppet. When Li Hoshan heard the professor's words, his heart became colder and colder. Okay, go do what you have to do. If you have an idea, you can come to me and communicate with me at any time. As your principal, this is my responsibility and obligation. The professor smiled. Okay. Li Hoshan nodded politely, and left the professor's office. How is he? Seeing Li Hoshan leave, Stormy Orlo asked with some expectation. After all, the X-Men now need some powerful partners. And Orlo's impression of Li Hoshan is very good. The talent is very good, but he is too cautious, especially for his own heart, he guards it very closely. The professor's eyes flickered, and he looked at the direction where Li Hoshan was leaving and smiled. A very funny little guy. He hadn't seen such an interesting mutant for a long time. And the mutant ability of the other party seems to be very interesting. He has spiritual strength, and his physical strength increases rapidly. Really good ability. The professor seemed to be looking forward to it. If Li Hoshan can grow up smoothly and become their guardian, there is no doubt that it is definitely a solid shield. What about the X-Men interns? Orlo asked. Just follow the fate. The gear of fate will put everything back in place. The professor smiled and said no more, but turned to the windowsill and looked outside again. Li Hoshan left the office and came to the classroom. It's just that his mood at the moment is a little heavy. Because when they went out just now, the three of Jason greeted him very warmly again. It's like a different person. This made Li Hoshan even more afraid of the professor. The power of the mind is indeed terrifying. In addition to being increasingly wary of the professor, Li Hoshan is also wary of mutants with spiritual power. We still have to hurry up and strengthen ourselves. He sighed slightly inwardly. But these things can't be rushed. After all, the X gene is born with the power of rules. Still haven't recovered. But he is getting stronger every day, including mental strength. As long as the spiritual power reaches a certain limit, it will also make the spiritual power stronger. So Li Hoshan can be said to be strengthening in all directions all the time. A big class, the content of the lecture is not very advanced. It's all easy to understand and common sense. After all, this is not a place to cultivate professional academics. It is to give those timid and introverted mutants who have been persecuted a place to stay, and they will not become illiterate or literate. So the content of the class is a bit cheerful, without the boring things in the usual class. Most of the students had smiles on their faces. But these have nothing to do with Li Hoshan. After all, I was a graduate student in my previous life, so I'm not interested in these things. He just quietly found a seat by the window, enjoying the feeling of strengthening and refreshing brought by the sun. When every ray of sunlight hits his body, he can feel the cells cheering. The whole body, from the inside to the inside, from the body to the spirit, is getting stronger at a speed that can be seen by the eyes. Why do you say that the eyes can see? Because the value on the property panel keeps jumping. It is even more exciting and enjoyable than those who speculate in stocks. I really didn't expect that after so many years of graduation, I would return to the big classroom again. Lee Ho-shin was basking in the sun, thinking wildly in his mind. Can I sit here? At this moment, a faint fragrance floated over. Lee Ho-shin looked up and saw Clarice walking over with a thick notebook. Of course, he smiled. Sitting next to a beautiful woman is also a kind of pleasure. Isn't there a good saying? See more beautiful women live long. Thank you. Clarice smiled sweetly, then sat next to Lee Ho-shin, taking notes seriously. Ha ha. Lee Ho-shin shook his head helplessly, lay down on the table and fell asleep. Cuckoo. While taking notes, Clarice looked at Lee Ho-shin's sleeping state, and couldn't help covering her mouth and smiling lightly. Time flies so fast when you're sleeping. Lee Ho-shin felt that he had just squinted for a while before the bell rang. He immediately got up and prepared to go to the cafeteria to eat. Can we go together? At this time, Clarice put away her notebook, came to Lee Ho-shin and said with a smile. You're much more cheerful than before. Lee Ho-shin said with a smile. Because of you. Clarice smiled sweetly. It looks good when you smile. Smile more in the future. Lee Ho-shin said, and the two walked towards the cafeteria. Along the way, Lee Ho-shin told several jokes to Clarice. Two of them are dirty jokes. Immediately, this young girl who had just entered puberty blushed with embarrassment. Like a ripe peach. Say, two corn kernels got married, but the next morning, the male corn discovered that the female corn was missing. And there's a kernel of popcorn lying next to him, so it's weird to take a kernel of corn. I can't help but ask, who are you, my wife? Guess what the popcorn said? When Lee Ho-shin laughed suddenly. I hate it, I don't care about you. Clarice blushed instantly, and ran away shyly. It's just the girl's back, which looks extraordinarily cheerful under the sun. She hadn't been this relaxed in a long time. In a blink of an eye, it was time for the afternoon class. Lee Ho-shin and Clarice walked into the classroom talking and laughing. But I found that there was no one in the big classroom. There will be no knowledge class in the afternoon, but actual combat training instead. Everyone has gone to the training ground. The students who stayed behind in the large classroom immediately informed the two of them. Combat training. Lee Ho-shin was taken aback for a moment. Clarice looked at each other, then turned around and walked towards the training ground. Not long after, the two came to the training ground. There are already a lot of people here now, and many familiar faces are also inside. Phantom Cat Kitty, Iceman Bobby, Cyclops Scott and others are all there. I didn't expect the high grades and the low grades to come. Lee Ho-shin looked around. On the small podium not far away, Storm Girl was standing on it and speaking. This afternoon, actual combat training. As mutants, what is really important to us is to master our own power. Those who know how to control power can live better in this world. And as mutants are naturally stronger than ordinary people due to the X gene. Even if you are not a power mutant, but an energy type, a mind type, or a body mutant type, no matter which one you are, our bodies are far superior to ordinary people. So we need to know better fighting skills in order to be able to exert great strength. Otherwise, we could easily hurt those around us, or even ourselves. Storm Girl said this, smiling and looking at everyone. I think you all know that excellent students can only join the X-Men. But if you want to become an X-Men, then you can completely master the abilities of mutants. This is the basic condition. Having said that, Orlo the Storm looked at Cyclops Scott next to him. Yes, only by fully mastering your own power can you be qualified to become an X-Men. At that time, you can also become heroes who protect the mutant world just like us. Cyclops Scott thumped his chest immediately, and said in a high voice. Clap clap clap. The people around immediately applauded excitedly. Some senior students couldn't help but whistle. Okay, be quiet. Now we start class. There are me, Storm, and Iceman. I'll be your training partner. I hope you will cherish it and work hard to familiarize yourself with your abilities. While carefully mastering your own abilities, you should also learn more about your companion's abilities. After all, you are likely to be comrades in arms fighting side by side in the future. Cyclops Scott immediately waved his hand, motioning for everyone to be quiet. It's really strange. It stands to reason that it is impossible for the upper and lower grades to have training sessions together. Lee Ho-shin was a little puzzled. Did the professor notice something? A hint of speculation flashed in his eyes. While the world is chaotic, it's more like a consolidated Marvel universe. But in the past few days, Lee Ho-shin has not gained nothing. He looked at it based on the original body's memory and the news he had collected. The current time node should be the eve of the X-Men's third battle. However, Wolverine hasn't come back yet, and Chin hasn't been resurrected yet, so I still have time. Lee Ho-shin estimated the time in his heart. Dong dong dong. At this moment, two people walked into the open space in front of the small podium. Colossus. Lee Ho-shin looked and saw a burly man covered in metal walking up. The heavy body caused the ground to make loud noises. I don't know how powerful Gangalashi is. Looking at this burly golden bump, Lee Ho-shin secretly thought in his heart. Colossus, my freezing power has increased a bit recently, you have to be careful. The man who came with Colossus was Poppy the Iceman. The two are old friends. Just come. Colossus immediately clashed his fists together, making a bang-bang sound. I'm going up. Iceman Bobby smiled, and immediately pressed his hands to the ground. Chi-chi-chi. In an instant, a wave of blue light burst out, with him as the center, waves of cold air spread like ripples. The surrounding water molecules were directly frozen into ice, and the entire open space turned into a world of ice. Colossus' feet were suddenly wrapped in streaks of cold air, as if to freeze him. This cold air can't freeze me. Colossus suddenly exerted force on his legs. Boom! The terrifying giant force instantly shattered the frost wrapped around his legs. The ground even began to crack. These two guys. Seeing this scene, Orlo shook his head helplessly. Looks like the place is going to be repaired after the fact. Old friend, let's make out. Colossus immediately ran up. I don't want to make out with a big guy like you. Iceman Bobby smiled, and then the blue light flashed all over his body again. In an instant, 3 ice walls more than 10 centimeters thick appeared in front of him. Colossus hit it instantly, making a loud bang bang bang. The 3 ice walls did not stop him for a moment. Worthy of being a Colossus, it's really fierce. When Lee Ho-shin saw this scene, his eyes flickered. Because of his current strength of 21 tons, he can also do this. That's right. These days, Lee Ho-shin has improved rapidly. His strength has increased from 11 tons a few days ago to 21 tons. Terrible. So it can also do the scene in front of you. But definitely not as chic as Colossus. After all, although Lee Ho-shin's becoming stronger is an all-round improvement. Skin toughness, muscle strength, etc. are also very strong. But for the time being, it can't compare with a monster like Colossus who can turn his whole body into metal. Go with. Seeing Colossus, he rushed over like a tank. Iceman Bobby suddenly waved his hands, and the air under his feet condensed into ice. He immediately slid on it like surfing. The speed increased instantly. At the same time, I saw him waving his hands quickly. In an instant, football-sized hockey pucks appeared in front of him. Whoosh whoosh. The next moment, these ice balls were like shells, rushing towards Colossus crazily. Although these ice balls do not contain explosives, they have no blasting power. But under the impact of extreme speed, there is still terrifying power. Especially the ice puck contained terrifying power of freezing, and Willy was no worse than ordinary shells. The figure of Colossus was immediately blocked by these ice pucks, and he couldn't help but pause. But it was just leaving some white marks on the opponent's body. Colossus' defense. It can be seen. The strength of Colossus, and Bobby the Iceman's control over the freezing power, is much stronger than in the movie. Lee Ho-shin's eyes flashed suddenly, and he muttered to himself. After all, in the film and television, the Iceman trash can only attack with cold air from both hands. The power is too weak. But now it seems that whether he releases the speed of the ice wall or controls the rapid attack of the ice puck. They are all very skilled and powerful. This is completely different from the Iceman Bobby in Lee Ho-shin's impression. So, obviously, this world is different from the movies and TV dramas he is familiar with. There are still some gaps. This also made Lee Ho-shin more vigilant. Never underestimate anyone, otherwise, it is very likely that the ship will capsize in the gutter. I can't break my defense with your attack, Colossus said suddenly. As expected of Colossus, powerful and fast, it is simply a humanoid tank. Lee Ho-shin couldn't help sighing. The opponent's strength is indeed not weak, and the two sides fight back and forth. It does look stunning, this immersive feeling of watching a real battle on the spot. It is incomparable to any 3D movie and VR. Don't worry, I still have many means prepared for you. Iceman Bobby laughed and rushed up again. His feet slid on the ice, like surfing, making the speed increase several times. This time, several ice sledgehammers appeared beside Colossus. Each sledgehammer is the size of a millstone, and it looks shocking. Quote. Seeing this scene, Lee Ho-shin's expression became strange. Because Iceman Bobby's control over ice at this moment reminds him of Gray in Fairy Tale. Ice Mage. And at this moment, Bobby the Iceman's control over ice seems to be no worse than Gray the Ice Stylist. Boom. Colossus was directly blown away by the sledgehammer, but he didn't wait for him to fall. Another sledgehammer came again. In this way, Colossus was abruptly beaten by Bobby, who hammered back and forth in the air with the ice sledgehammer. It seems that Iceman does seem to be Omega level, and Colossus is a little bit worse. Bobby the Iceman has started to suppress Colossus. Lee Ho-shin thought for a moment. In fact, he is almost the same as Colossus at the moment, and also belongs to the melee fighting type. And in terms of strength, the current Colossus should be stronger than, for example, Ho-shin. In addition, although the defense of the two is similar, but Colossus is more comprehensive, while Lee Ho-shin focuses on skin toughness and muscle strength. But in terms of absolute defense, it is worse than the Colossus who can turn into a steel monster. If I fight Poppy the Iceman, he suddenly thought about it. If it is he who is fighting Iceman Bobby at this moment. So how does Lee Ho-shin deal with Bobby the Iceman, who has a powerful ability to control ice like an ice mage? If you compare it with Colossus, Lee Ho-shin suddenly had a thought, and opened the attribute panel. Host, Lee Ho-shin. Strength, 21 tons. Spirit, 191, 3 for normal people. Physical strength, 1810 for ordinary people. Speed, 100 meters per second. System space, 100 cubic meters. Possessed systems, mental shielding system, sun exposure to become stronger system. My strength is now 21 tons, which should be much weaker than Colossus. But my speed has reached 100 meters per second, which should be much faster than Colossus. That's why Bobby the Iceman is inferior to me. Lee Ho-shin can roughly estimate that Bobby the Iceman is normal. The speed should be at the level of 40 to 50 meters per second. When walking on ice, the speed nearly doubles, reaching the level of 80 to 90 meters per second. Although this is already close to Lee Ho-shin, there is a gap of 10 meters per second. But the key to victory. What's more, Lee Ho-shin's speed and strength are increasing rapidly every day. There is no sign of decadence yet, and my mental strength has reached 63 times that of ordinary people. So in terms of reaction speed and flexibility, the opponent is definitely not as good as me. As long as you don't use the prince's fighting method, whether it's against Colossus or Iceman Bobby, I won't lose, Lee Ho-shin immediately speculated. As expected of a Colossus, it's fine to be bombarded so violently. I heard that even rockets and tank guns can't break through his defense in the form of his whole body being tempered. At this time, Clarice next to her whispered, "You know it very well." Lee Ho-shin suddenly looked at Clarice with a half smile. "Lee, don't think too much, I have nothing to him. It's just that in normal times, I followed what the teacher said to collect more information about the students. This will help in the future, to be able to fight side by side together." Clarice quickly explained to Lee Ho-shin. "Needless to say so much, I believe in you." Lee Ho-shin shook his head helplessly. He just wanted to make a joke with Clarice, but he didn't think of it. This little girl thinks so much. Those who didn't know thought he hit her. Okay, stop. At this moment, Orlo, the storm girl on the small podium, waved her hand. Indicate that Colossus and Iceman Bobby don't have to fight anymore. You two are very good, especially Colossus. It seems that your defense is stronger again. Bobby is also very powerful, your ice sledgehammer attack is really creative. Cyclops Scott stepped out immediately and commented on the two of them. Hey, Colossus, your skin is really thick enough. Iceman Bobby said with a smile. But your big ice hammer, it makes me itch so badly. Colossus couldn't help but complain. Okay, you two go down, next is Orlo and Newt Guy. Soon another mutant with a slightly smaller stature came up. His ability is short-distance teleportation. Although it is not as convenient as Nightcrawler's teleportation, it is faster. And it's more casual, without as many restrictions as Nightcrawler. As soon as he makes a shot, he is dazzled and teleports everywhere. It's just a pity that he met the Storm Girl Orlo. I saw Orlo wave his arms. In an instant, a gust of wind filled the surroundings, and streaks of lightning seemed to appear out of thin air. In an instant, the Newt cover was stuck in the strong wind, as if it had been dry cleaned by a dry cleaning machine. Being directly disturbed, he turned his back on his back and immediately lost his combat effectiveness. It is obviously the best at fighting attrition wars, the ability to consume people alive. After meeting the Storm Girl, she didn't even persist for a minute. The battle ended almost instantly. It can also be seen from this that there is a huge gap in combat experience between the two. Next, several mutants fought against Poppy, Colossus, and Cyclops. This battle after battle really opened Lee Ho-Shin's horizons. After all, how can those fighting scenes seen in movies and TV before really compare with this shocking scene in reality? One is burning expenses, and the other is real sweat. So after this actual combat training, his vision has indeed been broadened a lot, and he has also gained a lot of experience. In particular, he has a mental power 63 times higher than that of ordinary people, which makes him almost impossible to forget. Learned a lot of fighting skills and combat experience. At the same time, I also have some understanding of the abilities of more mutants. This can't help but make Lee Ho-Shin sigh. The abilities of mutants are really varied. Much more than what he saw in movies and TV. Just when he was fascinated and full of gains, Cyclops Scott suddenly walked over. Orlo thinks highly of you, and the professor is looking forward to you. So next, I will arrange Colossus to be your training partner. Both of you are powerful mutants, I hope you can gain something. Cyclops Scott spoke. Fight against Colossus. Lee Ho-Shin's heart skipped a beat when he heard the words. In fact, just now he saw the battle between Colossus and Iceman Bobby was a little fiery. From some aspects, Lee Ho-Shin can also be regarded as a powerful mutant. Of course only for now. After all, Lee Ho-Shin's improvement is all round, and the Steel Warrior has strong strength and high defense. But the attack method is single, and the shortcomings are obvious. As far as Lee Ho-Shin's X-Gene ability is concerned, he will definitely be a comprehensive player in the future. This is not what Colossus can compare. It is good. Lee Ho-Shin nodded immediately. Dong dong dong. Colossus immediately walked to the open space in front of the small podium again. Come on, Junior. But he didn't change. Obviously, in the eyes of Colossus, Lee Ho-Shin, a junior student in the lower grades, is not worthy of his transformation. Lee, come on. Clarice next to her immediately cheered Lee Ho-Shin up. This is Lee Ho-Shin. I heard that he couldn't control his mutant ability at all before. There was an explosion a few days ago. Mr. Scott actually asked him to fight Colossus. It's too flattering for him. I think he won't be able to hold on for more than 5 minutes. The people around immediately started talking. Don't say that, Lee is also our classmate, everyone should support him. The Phantom Cat Katie next to her spoke. Although the original body is not good at talking, the only one with whom he has a good relationship is Katie the Phantom Cat. Don't talk nonsense, Lee, it's very strong. Clarice immediately summoned up her courage and spoke to the people around her. Others don't know, but Clarice knows that Lee Ho-Shin is very powerful. Even Jason, a purely powerful mutant, couldn't stop his punch. Hey, isn't this our boring bored Clarice? How dare you talk like that now? A long-faced senior student next to him said jokingly. You. Clarice's eyes turned red when she heard the words, feeling aggrieved. But with a gentle personality, she didn't know how to refute at all. She could only bite her red lips lightly with her white teeth, pinch her fingers with teary eyes, and stand aside aggrieved. Shut your mouth, otherwise I don't mind teaching you a lesson before fighting Colossus again. Li Hoshan looked at that person immediately, a sternness flashed in his eyes. This world is very dangerous, and he never wanted to be the first bird. I didn't even think about being a Superman in the past to save the world. But if someone bullies his friend, Li Hoshan will never agree easily. The man wanted to speak, but when he saw Li Hoshan's eyes, his heart trembled. Keba, you are a senior classmate, how can you bully a junior classmate? Orlo, the storm girl, frowned suddenly and said aloud. Before talking to the professor, she was often bullied. This made Orlo hate bullies. Feel sorry. The young man with a long face, Keba, suddenly smiled awkwardly, and found a way to go down. Come on, Junior, let me see how strong you are. Orlo strongly recommended you, thinking that your potential is no worse than mine. And it's also a mutant type who is good at strength. Colossus said suddenly. He was a little curious, after all, Orlo had a high vision. But the other party mentioned Li Hoshan several times in front of Colossus. Senior Colossus, I think it's better for you to metalize first. Li Hoshan raised his eyebrows and said. It's fine if you fight against the enemy, if the opponent carelessly underestimates him, you can catch him by surprise. But after all, at this moment, they are only competing with Colossus. Li Hoshan didn't want to take advantage of the other party, and he didn't want to be accused by the other party of attacking him. And he also wants to know how strong his current strength is. He didn't show his strength at all when he fought against the three of Jason. All right, hearing this, Colossus nodded immediately. In fact, in his opinion, there is no need for metalization at all to fight Li Hoshan. After all, due to the X gene, even in his normal state, his strength is astonishing. It's just that out of maintaining Li Hoshan's self-esteem, he still chose to be metalized. Senior, here I come. Boom. Li Hoshan's expression froze immediately, and he kicked hard. He didn't take the temptation, but directly exerted his full strength as soon as he came up. When Colossus fought Poppy the Iceman earlier, he took it very seriously. The opponent has strong strength and high defense, but the attack is single and slow. Such an opponent is the easiest for Li Hoshan. The terrifying power immediately cracked the ground. Li Hoshan rushed out like a cannonball. So fast. Colossus' face suddenly changed. He didn't expect Li Hoshan's speed to be so fast. And the strength of the opponent seems to be no small matter. In the blink of an eye, Li Hoshan came in front of Colossus. With terrible inertia, Li Hoshan punched Colossus in the face. With the power of 21 tons, the combined punch is even more powerful than cannonballs. With a bang, Colossus actually responded and flew upside down. It hit the ground fiercely, drawing a ditch on the ground. Suck. Suddenly, everyone was stunned. They couldn't believe it and looked at the scene in front of them. Known for his strength, he is like a steel warrior of steel tanks. He was blown away with a punch. What a terrible power. I just said that there is no metalization. This punch is enough to seriously injure me. Colossus slowly got up from the ground, with a serious look on his face. Student, you are very strong. I'm going to be serious next time. He hummed. Bring it on. There was also a smile on Li Hoshan's face. He didn't hold back the slightest punch from the punch just now. A full 21 tons of terrifying force blasted on Colossus' face. It didn't even cause harm to the other party. It can be seen that the opponent's steel structure body is really powerful. Dong dong dong. Colossus also started to run immediately, rushing towards Li Hoshan. Good come. Seeing this scene, Li Hoshan went forward instead of retreating. Boom. The two immediately faced each other with fists, making ear-piercing roars. Terrible power, like two hammers banging together heavily. My God. Li Hoshan actually confronted Colossus. The two are evenly matched. Too frightening. For a moment, the people watching the excitement around couldn't help but exclaimed. This was the first time they saw someone talking to Colossus. To be able to fight in close quarters like this. Slightly sore, but bearable. Li Hoshan's eyes flashed immediately, and he had an accurate understanding of his skin toughness and bone strength. Bang bang bang. In an instant, the two quickly clashed crazily. Fist to the flesh, making a dull sound. Seeing the students around, their blood boiled immediately. Some people couldn't help roaring, shouting, and whistling. This is the battle between men. Boom! The terrifying power immediately turned into a terrifying hurricane between collisions. The students watching the bustle all around were rattling in their clothes. A few students wearing short skirts were blown up even more. But the students around were watching the fight between the two fierce men with all their blood. I didn't see this great scenery at all. The battle between the two became more and more intense, surpassing the previous battle between Colossus and Iceman Bobby. Especially since both of them are strength type, the damage to the training ground is also very obvious. As the two of them entered the white-hot stage, Lee Ho-shin's attributes of balance in all aspects began to be revealed. Colossus began to have a slight disadvantage. Roar! And Colossus seems to have been impatient. He has always been relatively gentle. At this moment, he couldn't help becoming irritable. The strength of the whole body has been raised to a limit. Okay, you two stop. At this time, Cyclops Scott came out. He has already seen that, if the fight continues, Colossus will most likely lose to Lee Ho-shin. Although the Colossus is more dominant in terms of strength and defense, even much stronger than Lee Ho-shin. But Lee Ho-shin is faster, with more physical strength, endurance, and even resilience. Even more than Colossus. This makes the longer the time, the smaller the gap between Lee Ho-shin and Colossus. It seems that Orlo is right, Lee Ho-shin's mutant ability is indeed very strong. Not just power. Scott immediately discovered some clues. Lee, you are really strong, and no one in the entire academy can compete with me in terms of strength. You are the first and only one. Colossus immediately returned to normal. But the admiration in his eyes was obvious. After all, he is several years older than Lee Ho-shin. Senior Colossus, you are also very strong, especially after you use your mutant ability. It's like I'm fighting an iron lump. Lee Ho-shin couldn't help but smile too. The strength of the opponent is only slightly stronger than him. But when he really started fighting, Lee Ho-shin was a little bit restrained. After all, Colossus' mutant ability can transform his whole body into a steel-like substance. This substance is not steel, its hardness is second only to Edmund alloy and vibranium. Enough to resist 110 mm howitzer attack. It can even withstand the impact of a 1-ton truck loaded with 450 pounds of TNT at a speed of 100 miles per hour. This terrible defensive power made Lee Ho-shin really tired from fighting. As for Lee Ho-shin, although his skin toughness, bone strength, and even muscle resistance are all very strong, but it is still worse than the Colossus in the steel form. Therefore, they can only rely on crazy attacks to consume the stamina and physical strength of Colossus. It's a pity that Colossus itself also has super endurance. Otherwise, under the attack of Lee Ho-shin's terrible power of the storm, he would have been defeated long ago. However, Lee Ho-shin still has a strong recovery ability, which is beyond the reach of Colossus. He is strong in all aspects. If he continued to fight, at most 1 hour, Lee Ho-shin could exhaust the strength of the Colossus. Okay, you two stop flattering each other. Now we all know, Xavier College, you two are macho. At this time, Storm Lady Alloro also came down and said with a smile. The battle between Colossus and Lee Ho-shin made her very satisfied. And Colossus has long been included in the X-Men list. As for Lee Ho-shin, she has already told Professor X. Earlier, the professor had also invited Lee Ho-shin. It's just that Lee Ho-shin has not agreed yet. But in Orlo's view, Lee Ho-shin will definitely join them. In this way, the X-Men team becomes stronger. Melee fighting teammates have always been reassuring. Whoa, whoa, suddenly, there was applause from all around. At this moment, no one dared to underestimate Lee Ho-shin anymore. Many people even regarded Lee Ho-shin as their idol. Adolescent boys and girls naturally worship the strong. Especially Lee Ho-shin, who is still a student just like them. But he was already able to fight to this extent with the senior Gangalishi. For them, this is shocking and motivating. It is the progress they can see. After all, teachers like Cyclops Scott, Storm Aurora, Professor X, etc. are too powerful. He has long been a famous figure in the mutant world. To Lee Ho-shin, just like them, he is just a student, and he didn't show his face before. It can be said to be mediocre. This gave them even more hope. Lee, you performed very well in the battle just now, but there are still some flaws. Cyclops Scott said immediately. Then he spoke out some small disadvantages that he had barely seen before. In fact, these things don't affect the key to Lee Ho-shin's fight with Colossus at all. It doesn't even do much. But Scott is a teacher of the college after all, and he boasted before. Said that it can help Lee Ho-shin, so that he can gain something. This family fought a big battle, and they fought beautifully. If Scott doesn't say something, he always feels embarrassed. Lee Ho-shin also saw this point, but he saw it through, but he didn't say it through. There was nothing to lose for him anyway. In the end, Scott, Orlo, and others only ordered some experience and combat skills. Lee, you are really amazing. Phantom Cat Kitty walked over and said excitedly. Good. Lee Ho-shin smiled. Are you hungry? At this time, Clarice came over and asked in a low voice. Sure enough, you still understand me. Seeing this shy girl, Lee Ho-shin immediately reached out and rubbed her head. Let's go to the cafeteria together. Clarice immediately lowered her head, her face turned even redder, and her voice was almost lost. The battle just now did consume a lot of Lee Ho-shin's energy. Now I really need to add something. Of course, besides going to the cafeteria to eat food, Lee Ho-shin has another way to replenish his energy. That is basking in the sun. His system becomes stronger when exposed to the sun, not just his physical data. Even physical strength can be recovered quickly. Appears to be able to convert solar energy into bioenergy. It's amazing. Let's go. The two left the training ground immediately and went to the cafeteria to eat. Although basking in the sun can replenish physical strength, but Lee Ho-shin still prefers to enjoy the fun of eating food. I have to say that the cafeteria at Xavier College is pretty good. Even if it is some fast food and Western food, the taste is no worse than that of restaurants outside. After eating, the two walked around the college again, looking like a young couple. Warm and romantic. Along the way, Lee Ho-shin still told one or two nasty jokes to amuse Clarice. Offended the other party, blushing to the ears. It wasn't until it was getting late that Lee Ho-shin separated from Clarice. After returning to the dormitory, he immediately lay down on the bed, enjoying a short period of peace. In his mind, he recalled the scene of fighting Colossus earlier. It has to be said that this battle has indeed benefited him a lot. After all, strictly speaking, this is Lee Ho-shin's first battle after becoming a mutant. He hardly kept his hands back, and his strength, which was as strong as 21 tons, was exerted with all his strength. As for the last battle with Jason and others, Lee Ho-shin didn't even count as a warm-up. However, my method is actually a bit simple. The combat skills are similar to Colossus, but in fact, I should be more flexible. When I was in battle, I didn't show my advantage. This shows that my combat awareness is still a bit weak, and I should strengthen my talent in this area. Also, the ability to transform still looks a bit handsome. The elementalization of Poppy Iceman, the metallization of Colossus, and even Orlo, the Storm Girl, is forced by the cold air all over his body. Next time, should I also get an ability with special effects? After thinking about it, Lee Ho-shin fell asleep. This feeling. Good smell. Time is fleeting. In a flash of such a life, another 5 days passed. This morning, Lee Ho-shin was teaching in the big classroom. Originally bored, he lay on his stomach sleepily. Clarice next to her was taking notes seriously, while sneaking a glance at Lee Ho-shin from time to time. Looking at the handsome Lee Ho-shin, Clarice couldn't help but put her hand towards him quietly. The white and slender fingers lightly touched his nose. In fact, Clarice just wanted to play a prank among best friends. But at this moment, Lee Ho-shin suddenly trembled and raised his head abruptly. What? Clarice was startled. You. Did I hurt you? Seeing Lee Ho-shin's reaction, Clarice's expression suddenly changed, and she was about to cry. No, you are fine. Lee Ho-shin's face was full of joy. He even couldn't help but kiss the other party's flamboyant little face. Fortunately, this is a big classroom, and they are in the back corner. Otherwise, Clarice would dig a hole shyly and get in. Snapped. Clarice blushed immediately, not daring to look at Lee Ho-shin again. He kissed me. Lee Ho-shin's move immediately made Clarice's heart pound like a deer. A small face that can be broken by blows, like a ripe peach. Very cute. But now Lee Ho-shin is not in the mood to appreciate the scenery. The power of the rules is full. Lee Ho-shin was full of joy, and a trace of excitement flashed in his eyes. After waiting for so many days, I finally fully charged the power of rules again. He's been waiting for this moment. Finally you can create a system again. These days, Lee Ho-shin has thought about it for a long time. Even made several lists. Breathing becomes stronger system, invincible upgrade system, wireless enhancement system, one-punch invincible system, god-level inheritance system, etc. It's just that these systems are ideal systems in his imagination. As for the power of rules, is it enough to create them? He still needs to try one by one to know whether it is possible. However, Lee Ho-shin has created 2 systems after all. So he also had some guesses. It creates the rule power of the system, and its original power comes from the X gene in the body. In Marvel's settings, mutants on Earth possess the X gene. Basically, countless years ago, the celestial group came to the Earth and endowed some humans with random and mutated genes on the basis of human genes. It's just that the mutated X gene is complex and random. Its upper limit can be very low, and its birth is similar to the officially certified, wateriest, mutant, Bailey's one-time human fireworks. But it can also be high. For example, Franklin Richards is completely unreasonable, and he is always the Marvel's strongest elementary school student who can create his own pocket universe. And the mutation ability produced by the X gene almost covers the power of the entire universe. Mutant abilities ranging from the animal department to the physics department, to the magic department, to the rule department and so on. This also makes it difficult to estimate the strength of mutants. Lee Ho-shin's X gene belongs to the domain of the rule system. As for how high its upper limit is, it is temporarily uncertain. Although I can't determine the upper limit of the X gene, I just need to use my strength to break the limit again and again. Lee Ho-shin suddenly thought secretly in his heart. Start creating. Next moment, he immediately started to create the system with ease. The system that he had planned to try earlier was immediately experimented by him. Breathing is the invincible system, creating failure. Hundreds of billions of multiplier systems, failure to create. One-punch invincible system, creation failure. Unlimited explosion system, creation failure. Quote. God-level inheritance system, successful creation. Finally, after more than a dozen attempts, Lee Ho-shin succeeded in creating it. Ding. Master, please choose a god-level inheritance template. Might Kai, Uchiha Sasuke, Uzumaki Naruto, Kurosaki Ichigo, Astro Boy, Black Cat Sheriff, Sakazuki, Pelusilino, Gray, Edogawa Conan, Gojo Satoru, Edward Elric, Jay Frisch, Jintoki Sakata, Ellen Yeager, Hanamaiki Sakuragi, Tanjiro Kamado, Vegeta, Kane Senjin, Kakarot Son Goku, Gourd Baby Dawa, Gourd Baby Grandpa. Immediately, tens of thousands of character templates flashed through Lee Ho-shin's mind. I'm not familiar with many of them, so I'll choose him. Lee Ho-shin didn't hesitate immediately, and chose a character from a familiar anime. Dragon Ball World, Saiyans on Earth, Kakarot Son Goku. Ding. Congratulations to the master. The god-level inheritance system has been awakened successfully, and the character template has been obtained, Kakarot Son Wukong. Next moment, an attribute panel appeared in front of Lee Ho-shin's eyes. Character: Kakarot Son Goku. Race: Saiyan. Progress: 5%. Abilities: Dancing Kongshu, Turtle Shockwave, Sun Fist, Controlling Chi, Energy Bullet, Violence. Transformation: Saiyan Giant Ape combat power is increased by 10 times, and more than 1700 million bruise waves are required. Talent: Blood of Battle. Only 5% of the process is unlocked. Lee Ho-shin was immediately disappointed. But after looking at his abilities and talents, he still became excited. Because he discovered that the system of strengthening after exposure to the sun can be superimposed with the god-level inheritance system. So, Lee Ho-shin does not need to practice as hard as Sun Wukong in the original book, he only needs to bask in the sun to enhance the inheritance process. Once the inheritance progress is improved, Lee Ho-shin's power will also become stronger. Although there is only one transformation of the Saiyan Giant Ape, the following Super Saiyan 1-2-3-4, as well as Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan, Super Silver under the Extreme Intention skill, and the legendary White God form. Lee Hoshin immediately looked forward to it. It can be said that in Dragon Ball, although Monkey King is not the strongest, but it has been crazily breaking through the limit, getting stronger and stronger. It seems that the bottleneck and limit that people talk about doesn't exist in him at all. Very good. In this way, my combat power can be greatly guaranteed. You don't need to have power for nothing, and you can't use it. Lee Hoshin suddenly became excited. Because in the inheritance, all the power of Monkey King will be passed on to Lee Hoshin. He seems to be born with it. This is the aura of the protagonist, this is life. Although the power of rules was exhausted again. But this time, Lee Hoshin was very satisfied. Worth it. Not only does it satisfy his strength improvement, but also the subsequent transformation and violence are full of special effects. For the use of chi, it is also extremely gorgeous. Saiyan's blood, I don't know how many levels of mutants are considered. He couldn't help but laugh. College canteen. Lee, you look very happy. Clarice asked curiously. It seems that Lee Hoshin has been smiling since the class just now. This made Clarice a little puzzled. Is there any simple good thing that can't be done? Of course there is. Lee Hoshin thought secretly in his heart. Just as he guessed, the system of becoming stronger after basking in the sun can indeed be superimposed with his god-level inheritance system. After basking in the sun for half a morning, his progress has reached the value of 5% from 6.3%. Although the transformation has no new form, he can feel it. The chi in the body has at least doubled. Now Lee Hoshin can already feel chi. If he is willing, the entire Xavier Academy can be instantly felt by him. It's just that the strength of mutants is mainly derived from the abilities brought about by the X gene. It has nothing to do with the size of the breath. Just like in perception, Colossus' aura far exceeds that of Professor X. But in terms of strength, the Professor can easily defeat Colossus. But for Lee Hoshin, as long as his chi becomes stronger, then his strength must increase. And Lee Hoshin does not need to practice as hard as Vegeta, Kakarot and others in the original book to be able to increase the strength of chi. He only needs to bask in the sun, and he can easily increase the strength of chi. This is the benefit of his X gene. It seems that it won't be long before I can surpass the Professor, Cyclops and the others. Lee Hoshin secretly thought in his heart. Based on his observations these days, and his insights from the last actual combat training, he has found out. The character settings in this world surpass those of the film and television dramas I have seen before. But much weaker than in the comics. After all, in the comics, Bobby the Iceman can even freeze the world, and Orlo the Storm can control the atmosphere of the Earth. Even Cyclops Scott, enough to smash planets. Not to mention the stronger Professor X and Magneto. But the reality is, let alone pushing everything horizontally, they were even persecuted by ordinary people and left scarred. And it only took me a few days, and I'm almost the same as Colossus. If I use my transformation ability now, even Colossus might not be my opponent. A smile appeared on Lee Hoshin's face again. It's just that the Saiyan wants to become a gorilla and enter the Saiyan giant ape form. It also needs full moon exposure. At least the radiation of 700 million Brutz waves is enough. But Lee Hoshin is not in a hurry. After all, his upper limit is too high. There are also Super Saiyan forms, Super God Red, Super Saiyan Blue and other forms. When the time comes to explode stars, or even break the universe, no Professor, Magneto, even the Hulk, Thor, and the others will be vulnerable. Lee, what are you laughing at? At this time, Kitty the Phantom Cat also came over with a plate. Do you mind eating together? Katie looked at Clarice with a slight hint of provocation. Do not mind. Clarice was taken aback for a moment, not quite understanding what Katie meant. After all, she didn't offend Katie. Lee, I really didn't expect that you are so strong that you can fight like Colossus. Katie immediately praised it. Women like strong men, even mutants. Originally Katie had a good relationship with Yuenshin, after all Lee Hoshin is really handsome. The handsomeness of Oriental men is not comparable to that of Western men. Seeing that the other party is so strong now, I feel even more fond of it. After eating in a while, do you want to go to the movies? Katie immediately sent an invitation. Xavier College also has a small cinema. It's a movie theater, it's like a multimedia classroom. But the decoration is very good. This also made Lee Ho-shin couldn't help but admire another ability of the professor. Quote. Clarice next to her suddenly had red eyes, feeling a little aggrieved. Now she finally understood why Katie had said that just now. It turned out that the other party also wanted to chase Lee Ho-shin and regarded her as a rival in love. When she heard that the other party invited Lee Ho-shin to watch a movie, Clarice suddenly felt uncomfortable. Especially Katie's looks, considered a little beauty. Especially Western girls are more open and forthright, and also more provocative. This is beyond Clarice. For a while, she felt a little uncomfortable, and her nose couldn't help but feel sore. Sorry, I'm going to bask in the sun. Lee Ho-shin smiled and shook his head. Where does he have time to go to the movies? That place is Black Blondin. The afternoon sun is the most comfortable. Especially when his strength soared, how could Lee Ho-shin go to the movies? Women can see it. Before they become stronger, they must not go deep. Otherwise, it will only affect the speed at which I become stronger. Basking in the sun. You must know that she can be regarded as the little beauty of the college, and there are many people who pursue Katie. It's just that Katie also has high vision, which most people don't like. There are many people who want to invite her to watch a movie. But he didn't expect that Lee Ho-shin would say sunbathing and rejected him. Is it because of Clarice? Katie immediately took what Lee Ho-shin said as an excuse to refuse. After all, who would believe that some people choose to bask in the sun instead of watching movies with beautiful women? I will not give up. Although she was rejected by Lee Ho-shin, Katie looked at Clarice with a sharp look in her eyes. After eating, I'm going to bask in the sun. Lee Ho-shin didn't pay attention to the weird atmosphere. After all, for him, the sun is the most important thing. Although it is still unclear when the crisis will come, Lee Ho-shin knows that it will arrive soon. Therefore, before the crisis comes, at least the strength must be increased by dozens or hundreds of times. Otherwise, how dangerous. And if you want to be strong, you have to work hard. Work hard in the sun. Leaving the cafeteria, Lee Ho-shin walked straight towards the small park. There is a green grass field, which is also the place where the sun is most abundant in the afternoon. He likes to lie there, basking in the warm wind and sun. Thank you, Lee. Lee Ho-shin closed his eyes, lying on the grass, and after a while, a faint fragrance came, and Clarice sat beside him. Quote. This inexplicable thanks made Lee Ho-shin a little confused. Puff. Clarice was also beside him, lying down quietly. Quote. Although puzzled, Lee Ho-shin didn't say much. Just enjoying the afternoon sun quietly. Feel the more powerful chi in the body. Time passed little by little. In a blink of an eye, it was another 3 days. In the afternoon of this day, Lee Ho-shin basked in the sun and listened to the song, when suddenly his body trembled. Because the chi in his body suddenly underwent a drastic change. There seemed to be a terrifying potential, somewhere in the body. It exploded out of thin air. Powerful, scary. Boom. This powerful force erupted from the body. For a moment, Lee Ho-shin felt that the whole person had become different. Although he hasn't released his chi yet, he knows it. I have definitely become stronger. If it was said that his chi was a big water tank filled with good things before, then it is a small river at this moment. This is already an essential difference. One is stagnant water, and the other has infinite possibilities. It seems that it can turn into a big river, or even go to the infinite sea at any time. The sudden change shocked Lee Ho-shin. The powerful force is like the river water rushing out of the water tank in an instant. It broke through the water tank and exploded. Boom. In an instant, a terrifying chi erupted from Lee Ho-shin's body. This air presents a golden light. Even people who cannot perceive chi can see it with their eyes. The golden air waves are like flames, wrapping around Lee Ho-shin. The powerful coercion directly lifted the surrounding turf away, and Clarice, who was lying next to her, was directly blown away more than 10 meters away. Could it be? With a sudden thought, Lee Ho-shin opened the attribute panel of the inherited character. Really, I saw that the above data has changed. Character: Kakarot Son Goku. Race: Saiyan. Progress: 10.1%. Abilities: Dancing Kongshu, Turtle Shockwave, Sun Fist, Control Chi, Energy Bullet, Violence, High-Speed Flight, Teleportation. Transformation. Super Saiyan 1 Level 10, Saiyan Giant Ape combat power increased by 1700 times, need more than million Bruzibo. Talent. Blood of Battle. Sure enough, the Super Saiyan transformation has been unlocked. Li Hoshan suddenly became excited. You must know that Super Saiyan is not a concept at all with Saiyan. And also mastered teleportation. This is a very powerful ability to save lives. As long as the distance of Li Hoshan's sensor is wide enough, the teleportation distance will be large enough. With the chi of the first stage of Li Hoshan's Super Saiyan, it is enough to perceive the whole world. I finally have the power to protect myself. From this moment on, Li Hoshan finally felt a little relieved. Although it is not yet known whether Super Saiyan Section 1 will be able to dominate the Marvel Universe. But at least on Earth, not many can kill him. But Li Hoshan will not be careless. After all, the abilities of mutants are complex and changeable, not inferior to superpowers. And there are many superpowers in Dragon Ball, but they are very powerful, and can even make Super Saiyan feel tricky. For example, Hidden Dragon Ball Super, his flash time is very difficult. In the first confrontation, if there is no intelligence, it is very likely to be killed in one hit. And mutants definitely have abilities, no less than Shinshis. For example, under the rapidity of Kuiyin, time almost stopped. There are many similar mutant abilities, so even with the Super Saiyan transformation, Li Hoshan will not be careless. Unless he waits until he is fully 100% Kakarot's ability. But even if Kakarot's ability is fully inherited, I don't know if he can beat Thanos with gloves. Li Hoshan was a little curious. But if I can fully inherit the ability of Quan Wong, Thanos should be a trivial matter. He secretly thought in his heart. It's just that if you want to inherit the king, you need a lot of power of rules. At least one has to understand that Li Hoshan becomes stronger, and it is possible for the X gene to become stronger. After throwing these things to the back of his mind, Li Hoshan immediately studied the first level of Super Saiyan 1 that he had just unlocked. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.